If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? All right, welcome back to the conversation, CEO Mischief Makers. Kasim is my guest, and I'm telling you, if you have not listened to the first episode about mindset, you absolutely need to just stop what you're doing and go listen to that, because brilliance was shared, and we got deeper in 15 minutes than I think I've gotten with almost anyone. So thank you for that, first off, and welcome back, Kasim. Now let's talk about impact and innovation. I mean, you set us up perfectly for that next shift you're going to make, with the difference in really 8-figure, 9-figure is really only a decision. Who is it in your world, in your, let's just take in your traffic world, who are you trying to impact?
I have a really big heart for small businesses, and it moves from heart to what would you say, theological precondition or political preference. I believe very strongly that the prowess of all society and all societies rests on the individual. Like individual people, a person, you. And this is an easy thing to say, but when you start to implement it and act upon it, you actually end up in really dangerous territory. Really dangerous territory, because it's counter to the kind of collectivist narrative about, you know, identity politics and who we are, and I'm brown and you're not, and you know, like it gets very like, ugh. And what I love about entrepreneurship is I believe that it's conducted, when it's conducted properly, at the level of analysis that I think is most important, which is the level of the individual. And I mean, you might have business partners and there's multiple people involved in an entity, but it's almost always about individual contributorship. Even when there's multiple people involved in an entity, each one of those people, you know, like it breaks down to the level of it. That's the perfect level of analysis. And I think that our civilization has kind of proven this experiment, you know, because there's different societies with different modes and models, and I'm not trying to well, I guess I am trying to compare. I'm not trying to disparage the more collectivist approach, but I will posit that this one won, and is continuing to win. And going back to the root of the question, unless I've lost the thread entirely, I don't give a shit about Fortune 100 or REITs or ETFs, or, you know what I mean? Like I really love the idea that there's one person in a basement or a garage or an attic that can change the world. And what's really cool about not just Google Ads, but about digital marketing is that's never, ever, ever, ever been more possible. And it happens all the time. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's a miracle to watch. And, you know, traffic is the lifeblood of all marketing. It's visibility. It's the number of people that you see. And so being able to drive traffic and drive it effectively, and it's commoditized, and the more money you have, the more you can buy. But there's so many ways around that rule. You know, there's so many ways around that rule. So it's a fun field of play to be on.
Oh, and it's, so the way you think about that in your heart about the individual, because traffic, especially traffic, is just numbers. It's just a group of people. So in that sense, it's opposite. It's the antithesis of what you just said, in the sense that that's all people look at is a group of people, a list, a whatever measurement they want to give. But when you come to that from the understanding of the individual, and that we actually do want to make an impact with individuals and small businesses and the people within those entities, it turns that whole idea on its head, rather than just looking at numbers or groups or lists or identifiable factors. I love that, because that's what innovation is, taking that standard formula and turning it on its head because of what you've experienced, what your personality is, and where your heart lies. And you align with those same people so that you can then help those people much more effectively. So how are you then, with that idea, first off, tell me if I'm correct. And then secondly, how are you innovating traffic and digital marketing when you're coming from that perspective?
I think part of the reason that I'm better at traffic than most is because I do have the paradigm that I have about the individual. Somebody else will look at something and be like, oh, that video only got 30 views. You know, like, oh, that video failed, it got 30 views. And in my mind, I'm like, that's 30 souls.
Humans,
60
yes.
parents, 30 bank accounts, 30 social security. Like, that's 30. You know how hard, like, go next time you're in a room with 30 people, look around and realize like how many people that is. If anybody's ever done events, I have a mastermind. Me and some buddies started, and like we're sub 100 members right now. Getting 100 people into a room, especially 100 people in any specific niche, you know, this is a mastermind for 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. Getting 100 of them into a room is hard, but you can go get 100,000 of them to watch a video with actual relative ease. So that's the other piece of it too, is people are often they're just looking at the numbers when they're looking at traffic. And if you think of it as people, it also it forces you to ask the right questions. You know, you might say like, oh, I've got 300 impressions and 20 clicks, and now I stop and I go, well, wait a minute, 300 impressions and 20 clicks, is that just sterile math and a ratio? Sure. But how come 300 people saw your offer and they didn't click? Like 300 people saw your offer and less than 10% clicked. I think your offer sucks. You know, and like you start to look at it from a practical human, and 320, by the way, is not a bad impression to click ratio. I'm just, using just randomness. But when you think about it from a practical perspective, and I realize that doesn't sound very innovative. But what I'll say is the technical innovation in marketing happens without you. It happens by trillion-dollar organizations that can invest, literal trillion-dollar organizations that can invest in AI and machine learning. You're not going to outrun, outpace, outthink Google, Apple, Microsoft, OpenAI. Like where you innovate is on the human level. What's the offer? What's the value proposition? Why does this matter? What's the risk mitigation? What's the objection? How do I help you overcome that objection in a way that's integrous? And I think the innovation to marketing, especially digital marketing, is to humanize it. I think that the future of marketing is community. And, everybody will say, oh, I don't want to do that because it doesn't scale. Well, neither does humans don't scale. Relationships don't scale. But like what we're doing here, this podcast, what you have with the mischief makers, that's a community that you're building. It's not a scalable community. Podcasting isn't a scalable service, but you put the time in and people hear your voice and maybe they see your face and they get to know you and they get to trust you. And then over time, you get to insert endeavor here. And I think that the human element of marketing, that's especially if you pay attention to what's going on with AI, which blows my mind. I've been doing nothing but reading and listening and watching, and I'm obsessed with Sam Altman. And I'm a card-carrying prepper, and I've never had more optimism about humanity in my entire life. But almost all of the work is gone now, which means all the innovation is gone now outside of the very specific and maybe the most important elements. And in my particular realm of the world, the innovation is, how do you make this more human? How do you connect more? How do you get closer to somebody's heart and soul? How do you empathize more? What do you love more? And if that doesn't sound innovative to you, then you're not paying attention to marketing, and you're not paying attention to your business, you're not paying attention to your customer, because that's what people want.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay, so that that analogy you just gave with 300 people saw your video and 20 people clicked. That's 280 people. 280 people who saw it but were not moved enough, or were not connected enough, or didn't understand, or didn't trust, whatever the words you want to use, and you need to dive into that, they weren't connected enough to actually take the action. So bring that back to your mindset of failure. That is a perfect example of that. You can look at that as failure, but you can look at that as, oh my gosh, what an incredible opportunity. I got 280 people that I can learn from to get even better at connecting with the people who actually clicked my message, my headline, my whatever. They actually took that action to look. That means I just need to get better and understand more what they need. When you bring it to that human level, everything that we've already talked about just slides right in and makes so much sense. It is innovative. I agree 100%. So, wow. I agree with you also on AI. I just was recently blessed with an opportunity to work with Mark Schaefer, an incredible author, speaker at all kinds of places, to participate in writing a book with him. I was a co-author with him that'll come out in a few months. And I wrote the chapter on AI. And it is changing and developing so fast. It is so exciting. I was looking at my website. Somebody went into and inserted a virus, some code into my website. And I'm looking through and I'm like, all right, I can't, this is the middle of the night. I can't, get somebody to help me with this right now. So I'm just going to go to GPT-4 and I'm going to say, okay, here's a piece of code. I'm not a coder. Can you see some suspicious code in this string? Yep, here it is. This is suspicious. This is why. I'm like, what? That's incredible. Take out that piece of code, boom, everything's great. So Chat GPT-4 basically helped me debug and antivirus malware, get my site back going. It's incredible what you can do.
Miracle.
It really, I agree with you. I'm in the middle of watching Lex Friedman's
That's my favorite interview with Sam. Yeah. Lex does the best job of drawing him out, because Sam Altman does a ton of interviews, but he's not always very accessible. Like I wouldn't call him guarded. He's very Pavlovian. It's like, prompt response, and you're going to get out of him what you put into him. And Lex did the best job of anybody, and I've watched a ton of them. Lex did the best job of anybody of really, getting in under his skin and getting to the root of things. And I loved it. And I'm so glad it's Sam. Like, this is maybe the most important thing that's ever happened to humanity. And here's this man that I have found to be thoughtful and cautious about the fact that he's building. It's the closest thing we've ever come to God.
Yes, I was going to use the exact same words.
Speaking.
Yes.
So if there's somebody on a human level that we elect to play God, I really, he's a front runner in my mind. Like, I think we got the right guy.
Yeah, and that's really looking at that. Innovation is not just technical innovation. It really is this concept, because AI has been around. This is not brand new, even though it looks like it's brand new, because it's just now getting into mainstream, and not even in mainstream. It really, most people on the street have no clue still. But it's been around a long time, and this has been innovated in a way, starting with OpenAI, starting with actually open source, and moving into what it is now. It's brilliant. And in terms of innovation, is there anything else you would like to add specifically on the platform of your world and traffic that people can use to innovate these traffic sources, this digital marketing, for their own business and in their own world?
Yeah, I'll say, and this will probably be something we dive deeper into on the third episode, but it dovetails nicely. Attribution is the biggest problem both marketing and traffic, period, full stop. You do not know where people came from. So to put those in simple terms, let's say that you're running Google ads and you're running Facebook ads and you sell 10 things today. Google says we sold 8 of them. And Facebook says we sold 8 of them. And what's really interesting about that is they're both right, because it takes 500 touch points sometimes to sell something. And so, Google and Facebook ping people back and forth, and there's remarketing and branded traffic and custom audiences and whatever. And whoever solves this attribution problem is going to have the single biggest competitive advantage in the space of paid ads. So whatever it is that you're doing, capture first-party data. If you really want to innovate, capture first-party data, and then start to use that data towards the aim of identifying attribution. And there's only 3 data points in marketing that matter. It's CAC, the cost to acquire a new customer. It's LTV, the lifetime value of that customer. And it's MER, your media efficiency ratio. And MER would break down more if attribution was better, but it's not. And so if you want my technical opinion about how to innovate, it's along that level of analysis. Go deep on data acquisition. It's not hard, by the way, it's tedious. It's actually really easy to capture first-party data. It's just a pain in the ass once you have it. It's like, man, I have all this now. What do I got to go learn Excel and numbers crunch. AI is probably going to help us with that, by the way. But yeah, the attribution piece in traffic is, it's a black box. And if you can even improve 1%, because these compound so significantly, your competitive advantage over your competitors is truly incalculable.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.